I thought I knew my daughter-in-law. Turns out, I didn't even know half the truth about what she was capable of for the sake of my money. My name is Anna Harrison, and at 72, I've lived through more betrayals than most people do in a lifetime, but nothing could have prepared me for the blow dealt by my own family. The story I'm about to tell you begins with the joyful news of a pregnancy and ends with a revelation that shook the very foundation of everything I believed in. Dear viewers, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. March 2024 was unusually warm at our home in Connecticut. I was sitting in my favorite living room, sipping morning tea and reading financial reports. At 72, I still actively managed my real estate and investments, a legacy from my late husband, Robert, which, through years of careful stewardship, had grown to an impressive $8.4 million. That's when my only son, Michael, burst into the house with his wife, Sarah. They'd been married for 3 years. Michael was 35, Sarah 28. From the start, something about her unsettled me. Maybe it was the way her eyes lingered too long on our house during her first visit, or how quickly conversations turned to my financial situation. "Mom," Michael exclaimed, rushing into the living room. "We have incredible news." Sarah trailed behind him, one hand theatrically cradling her stomach, the other steadying herself against the wall. I noticed she looked a bit pale, but I chalked it up to excitement. "We're pregnant," Sarah blurted out, stealing Michael's chance to share the news. 8 weeks. My heart skipped a beat. A grandchild. At my age, I'd almost given up hope of seeing this moment. Michael had put off starting a family for so long, consumed by his career in it. "Oh, my darlings," I rose from my armchair to embrace them both. "This is wonderful, just wonderful." But as I hugged Sarah, something felt off. Her stomach seemed unnatural, too rounded for 8 weeks. I brushed the thought aside. Maybe it was just her body shape or the way her clothes sat. "Mom, we're so happy," Michael beamed. "You're going to be the best grandmother in the world." "Yes," Sarah chimed in, a note in her voice I couldn't quite place. "And we wanted to talk to you about the future, about how to best provide for the baby." There it was, a chill ran down my spine, but I forced a smile. "Of course, dear, let's celebrate first, then we'll talk details." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparations for a celebration. I ordered a cake from the best bakery in town, invited close family friends, and bought the first gifts for my future grandchild. Meanwhile, Sarah became even more attentive to her condition, constantly clutching her stomach, complaining of morning sickness, requesting special foods. "Anna, the doctor said I need complete rest," she told me on Thursday when I suggested she help with party preparations. "Stress is so harmful for the baby this early on." "Of course, dear, rest." I studied her face, trying to pinpoint why something felt wrong. On Saturday, we held a small celebration. Our neighbors, the Johnsons, my longtime friend and lawyer Charles Mitchell and his wife, and a few of Michael's colleagues attended. Sarah was the center of attention, regaling everyone with vivid details about her pregnancy symptoms, so vivid, I started to feel uneasy. "Did you know," she told Mrs. Johnson, "my doctor says I have a rare type of pregnancy. The belly grows faster than usual, and the baby's developing ahead of schedule." Mrs. Johnson, a mother of 3, raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, who's your doctor?" "Dr. Smith. He works at a private clinic in New York, very exclusive." I caught the brief hesitation over the doctor's name, another red flag. After the guests left, the 3 of us stayed in the kitchen to clean up. That's when Sarah decided to get to the point. "Anna, we need to have a serious talk about the future," she began, sitting at the table, her hand once again stroking her stomach, "about financially securing the baby." "Of course, dear, I've been thinking about it. I could set up an education fund for the baby." "No," Sarah cut in sharply, "that's not enough. We're talking about something bigger." Michael stood beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. The resolve in his eyes unnerved me. "Mom, we think it's only right if you revisit your will. Now that we're having a child, your grandchild, they should be the primary heir." "Michael, I've always planned to leave the bulk of the inheritance to you." "The bulk isn't everything," Sarah interjected, "and not sometime in the future. Our child needs guarantees now." "Guarantees?" I felt my blood pressure rising. "What kind of guarantees?" Sarah exchanged a glance with Michael, and I knew they'd rehearsed this conversation. We want you to formally rewrite your will, making our child the primary heir, Michael said slowly. And we want you to grant us power of attorney over some of your assets now, for the baby's needs. I stared at my son, the only child I'd raised alone after Robert's death when Michael was just 12. I'd worked day and night to preserve and grow our family's wealth. I'd given him the best education, supported his every endeavor. Michael, my voice trembled, a will is a serious matter. I can't make that decision under emotional pressure. What pressure? Sarah leapt from her chair, and I noticed her pregnant belly shift oddly. I'm carrying your grandchild. This isn't about emotions, it's reality. This child deserves a secure future. Mom, Michael took my hand, we're not asking you to give up everything. Just, you can still enjoy the income from your investments while you're alive, but the main assets should go to the child. And to us, as their parents, to manage those assets until they come of age, Sarah added. It hit me like a lightning bolt. This wasn't about the child, it was about the money, my $8.4 million. I'll think about it, I said as evenly as I could. This is a big decision. Think about it? Sarah's voice turned shrill. Anna, I'm pregnant. Every day you delay puts this child at risk. What if something happens to you before you change the will? Sarah, Michael tried to stop her. No, Michael, she turned to me, and for the first time I saw unmasked venom in her eyes. Your mother's living in the past. She only thinks about herself. My child deserves their inheritance now. I stood up from the table. I think you should go home. I need time to think. Time to think, Sarah grabbed my arm. Anna, I'm 2 months pregnant. I'm dealing with morning sickness. I can't work. Michael's spending everything on my medical bills. We need financial support now. Let go of my mom, Michael said quietly. Sarah released my arm, but her gaze burned with fury. Fine, she grabbed her purse. But know this, Anna, every day you delay could cost your grandchild's life. Financial uncertainty is dangerous for pregnant women. After they left, I sat in the empty kitchen, trying to process what had happened. My son, my flesh and blood, who I'd raised through so many hardships, was demanding I rewrite my will for an unborn child, and something about this situation was profoundly wrong. I picked up the phone and called Charles Mitchell. Charles, sorry to bother you so late. Can we meet tomorrow? I need legal advice. Of course, Anna, something serious. Possibly, very possibly. I couldn't sleep that night. Something about Sarah's behavior, her words, the way she held her stomach felt fake. Could someone really pretend to be pregnant for money? Could my own son be part of such a scheme? By morning, I'd made a decision. If they wanted me to rewrite my will for a child, I needed proof that child existed. The next day, I met Charles at his office on Main Street. He'd been our family lawyer for 20 years, and I trusted him completely. Anna, tell me what happened, he said, pouring coffee. I recounted the previous day's conversation with Michael and Sarah in detail. Charles listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions. What exactly is bothering you? He asked when I finished. Charles, I can't explain it rationally, but I have a gut feeling something's off, too many coincidences. Sarah marries my son, learns about the size of my estate, and suddenly she's pregnant, and immediately demands I rewrite my will. Anna, Charles leaned forward, I understand your concerns, but accusing someone of faking a pregnancy, that's a serious claim. That's why I'm here. How can I verify it? Well, theoretically, you could request medical records, but that could spark a major family conflict if your suspicions are wrong. And if they're right? Charles paused, thinking. Then it's attempted fraud on a massive scale. Anna, let's hold off for now, see how things unfold. In the meantime, I'd advise against making any changes to your will. I agreed, but the unease lingered. At home, I was greeted by an unexpected visitor. Sarah was sitting on my couch, flipping through a real estate magazine. Anna, she jumped up, clutching her stomach again. I thought I'd stop by to chat and to apologize for last night. I got too emotional. How did you get in? Michael gave me keys last month, in case I needed help while he's away. You don't mind, do you? I minded a lot, but I chose not to escalate things. Of course, dear, how are you feeling? Oh, much better. Sarah sank back onto the couch, and I noticed again how unnatural her stomach looked. You know, I was thinking about our conversation. I realized we're approaching this the wrong way. How so? We shouldn't wait until, well, you know, until the will takes effect. The baby needs money now, for medical care, a nursery, everything. She stood and walked to the window, gazing out at my garden. I was talking to a financial advisor, she said. He told me the way to pass on wealth is through lifetime gifting, less taxes, more control. Gifting, my muscles tensed. Yes, Sarah turned to me with a radiant smile. Imagine you'd get to see your money make a difference for your grandchild, be part of their life. Sarah, I'm not ready for such drastic decisions. Not ready, her face fell. Anna, I'm 9 weeks pregnant. Every week is critical for the baby's development. I need the best medical care, the best vitamins, the best conditions. Michael and I are barely scraping by. That was a lie. I knew Michael earned a good salary at his IT company, and Sarah had worked as a marketing manager before their marriage. They could afford a comfortable life. How much exactly do you need? Sarah paused, as if calculating something in her head. Well, for starters, $1 million. That would cover all medical expenses, setting up a nursery, buying a house in a better school district. $1 million. Anna, it's an investment in your grandchild's future. Think of the opportunities it would open up. I stared at this young woman who spoke of $1 million as casually as if it were grocery money. Sarah, I need to discuss this with Michael. Of course, she grabbed her purse. But please don't take too long, time's working against us. After she left, I immediately called Michael at work. Michael, your wife was at my house. We talked about money. Mom, I know, we discussed it this morning. And you're okay with her asking for $1 million up front. A pause. Mom, it's not that much, considering the size of your estate, and it's truly an investment in our child's future. Michael, I want to talk to you in person, tonight, without Sarah. Mom. Michael, this is important. Another pause. Okay, I'll come by after work. That evening, Michael arrived alone. He looked tired and tense. Mom, I know what you're thinking, that we're rushing things, that Sarah's too pushy. Michael, how long have I known you? My whole life, Mom, 38 years. And when have I ever been wrong about people? He looked at me closely. What are you saying? About your wife, Michael, what do you know about her past, her family, her finances before she met you? Mom, we've been married for 3 years. Of course I know. Did you know she was married before you? Michael froze. What? I hired a private investigator, Michael, right after your engagement. Sarah was married to a wealthy businessman from California. The marriage lasted 18 months. It ended in divorce after she tried to access his bank accounts without permission. Michael's face paled. That's impossible, she would told me. Michael, she also sued her previous employer, claiming harassment. The court dismissed the case for lack of evidence. And one more thing, she has over $100,000 in credit card debt. Michael sank into a chair. Mom, even if that's true, she's pregnant. She's carrying my child. Are you sure about that? What do you mean? Michael, when was the last time you went with her to a doctor's appointment? She said the doctor prefers to see first trimester patients alone, that it's standard practice. Have you seen any test results? Mom, why are you doing this? Because I love you, and because I have suspicions I can't ignore. I told him about all the oddities I'd noticed, from the unnatural appearance of her belly to her hesitation over the doctor's name. Michael, I said gently, I want you to ask Sarah to take a pregnancy test in the presence of a doctor you choose. Mom, if she's truly pregnant, she'll have no issue proving it. If she's not, you need to know the truth. Michael was silent for a long time. What if she refuses? Then you'll have your answer. The next morning, Michael called me. Mom, I talked to Sarah. She said it's insulting, that she shouldn't have to prove her pregnancy. And what did you say? I told her it's just a standard procedure, that we could go to my doctor, Dr. Johnson. And she agreed, but she had a condition. What condition? If the test confirms the pregnancy, you immediately transfer us $1 million. She said it's compensation for the emotional distress of being doubted. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. It sounded too much like an ultimatum. Michael, what if the test is negative? Then we'll have a serious talk. Agreed. When are you going to the doctor? Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. I didn't sleep that night. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that Sarah was truly pregnant and my suspicions were just paranoia. But another part, colder and more rational, already knew the truth. At 9 the next morning, Michael called. Mom, Sarah can't make the appointment. She says she's not feeling well. Michael. But she offered an alternative. She'll bring a certificate from her doctor in New York confirming the pregnancy, and we can transfer the money today. A certificate from Dr. Smith. Yes, no, apparently his name is Dr. Jones. She got it wrong last time. That was the final straw. Michael, tell Sarah there'll be no money without an in-person doctor's visit. Mom. Michael, that's my final decision. An hour later, Sarah called me herself. Her voice trembled with rage. Anna, you've lost your mind. I'm pregnant. I'm carrying your grandchild, and you're demanding I go through some humiliating verification process. Sarah, it's a simple blood test, if you're pregnant. I won't do it, she screamed into the phone. You know what? Michael and I will get a lawyer. We'll sue. This child has a right to their inheritance. To what inheritance, Sarah? I'm still alive. Not for long if you keep this up. Stress is bad for the elderly. It sounded like a threat. A chill ran down my spine. Sarah, did you just threaten me? I'm stating a medical fact, but there was panic in her voice. Listen, let's forget this stupid test. I'll bring the doctor's certificate and we can. Goodbye, Sarah. I hung up and immediately called Charles. Charles, I need to change my will, urgently. The next day in Charles's office, I signed a new will. The primary beneficiary was now a charitable foundation for children's hospitals. Michael would receive a $2 million trust fund, but only if he divorced Sarah. If he stayed with her, he'd get just $50,000. Anna, are you sure? Charles asked. These are harsh terms. I'm protecting my son from a con artist, I replied, and myself. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to prove the truth to Michael, and I had a plan. That evening, I called Sarah. Sarah, dear, I want to apologize for my behavior. I was wrong. Anna, her voice was laced with surprise. Yes, I realize I've been paranoid. Of course you're pregnant. And of course, I should provide for my grandchild. Well, it's good you've finally come around. I'd like to propose a deal. Tomorrow I'll transfer you $500,000, the rest after the baby's born. $500,000, Sarah's voice turned greedy. Anna, we agreed on $1 million. $500,000 now, $500,000 after the births. That's fair. A pause. Okay, but there's one condition. I want us all to go to the doctor together, you, me, and Michael, so you can see for yourself that I'm pregnant and never doubt me again. I smiled. She'd taken the bait. Perfect, dear. Which doctor are we seeing? Dr. Jones in New York. Can you give me his number? I'd like to book the appointment. He's very busy. I'll handle the arrangements. Sarah, if we're going together, it makes sense for me to speak with the doctor directly, don't you think? Another pause. I could almost feel her panic through the phone. Fine, give me some time. I'll contact the clinic and get back to you with the details. Wonderful, I'll wait for your call. But the call never came. Instead, the next day, Michael showed up at my house. He looked broken. Mom, we need to talk. Of course, dear, what's wrong? Sarah, she's gone. What do you mean, gone? Last night after your call, she said she was going to a friend in Boston. This morning, I woke up, she's gone. Her things are gone. There was a note on the table. He handed me a piece of paper. I read, Michael, I can't handle the pressure from your mother anymore. I need time to think. Don't try to find me. Sarah. Michael, I took his hand gently. What about the doctor's visit? She said the doctor suddenly got sick, that we'd have to reschedule. And you believed her. Michael looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw what I'd been waiting for, doubt. Mom, I'm starting to think maybe you were right. I hugged my son. Michael, I hired a private investigator. Do you want to know the full truth? 2 days later, private investigator Thomas Green sat in my living room, delivering his report. Mrs. Harrison, your suspicions were entirely correct. Sarah Mitchell isn't her real name. Her name is Sandra Wilson. Over the past 10 years, she's been married 4 times, always to wealthy men. 3 of those marriages ended in divorce after she tried to access her husband's finances. And the 4th, Michael asked, his lips pale. The 4th husband died under mysterious circumstances, a fall down the stairs. The police found no evidence of foul play, but the insurance company investigated for a long time. In the end, Sandra received a $500,000 payout. Oh God, Michael whispered. That's not all, the investigator continued. 3 years ago, Sandra was arrested in Nevada on suspicion of fraud. She pretended to be pregnant to extort money from a charity. The case fell apart for lack of evidence. Pretended to be pregnant, my heart raced. Yes, she used special prosthetics to mimic a pregnant belly, high-quality ones, nearly indistinguishable from the real thing. Michael buried his face in his hands. Mom, I'm such an idiot. How did I not see it? Michael, she's a professional con artist. You're not the first to fall for her tricks. Where is she now? I asked the investigator. She's gone, left the state, likely already looking for her next target. The next day, Michael and I filed a report with the police. Detective Jones from the fraud division listened carefully to our story. Mrs. Harrison, technically, no crime was committed. She didn't get your money, but we can add this to her file. Sooner or later, she'll slip up. What about the marriage? Michael asked. It's invalid. She provided false documents during registration. You can file for an annulment. A week later, Michael received papers declaring the marriage null and void. Legally, Sarah had never existed in his life. But the story didn't end there. A month later, when I thought it was all behind us, I got a call from an unknown number. Anna Harrison. Yes, it's Sarah. We need to talk. My blood ran cold. Sarah, where are you? Doesn't matter where. What matters is what I know. I have information that might interest the police about your late husband. What are you talking about? That his death wasn't so natural, and I have proof. It was a lie. Robert died of a heart attack in the hospital, surrounded by doctors. But Sarah was banking on my fear. What do you want? $2 million, and I'll disappear forever. Otherwise, the police will get some very interesting documents. You're trying to blackmail me. I'm offering you a deal that works for everyone. I hung up and called Detective Jones immediately. Detective, she's back, and now she's trying to blackmail me. Perfect, now we have an actual crime. Can you arrange a meeting with her? You want me to meet with that woman? With our backup, we'll record the conversation and we'll have all the evidence we need. The meeting was set on the outskirts of town. I sat at a table, nervously clutching my purse, which concealed a hidden microphone. Undercover officers sat at nearby tables. Sarah arrived right on time. She looked different, short dark hair instead of long, different clothes, different makeup, but her eyes were the same, cold and calculating. Anna, how's it going? She said, sitting across from me with a cynical smile. What do you want, Sarah, or whatever your real name is? Names don't matter. Money does. 2 million and you'll never see me again. And if I refuse, then tomorrow morning, the police will receive a packet of documents about how you poisoned your husband. That's a lie. Maybe, maybe not, but while the police investigate, it'll hit the press. Imagine the headlines: wealthy widow murders husband for inheritance. Even if they don't lock you up, your reputation will be ruined. You have no proofs. I have copies of your husband's medical records and a witness who's ready to testify that they saw you buying rat poison a week before his death. It was a desperate lie, but Sarah delivered it with such confidence she could fool anyone. So Anna, what's it gonna be? 2 million and we part as friends. And if I agree, how does this work? You transfer the money to a Swiss bank account. I've got the account number. Once I get the funds, I destroy the documents. And I'm supposed to trust you. Do you have a choice? At that moment, 2 men in suits approached our table. Sandra Wilson, you're under arrest for attempted extortion, Detective Jones said, flashing his badge. Sarah's face went white as a sheet. What? No, this is a misunderstanding. We have the entire conversation recorded. You just tried to extort $2 million. Anna, Sarah leapt to her feet. Anna, tell them we were just talking. I'm sorry, Sarah, I said calmly. The game's over. As they led her away in handcuffs, Sarah screamed. This isn't over. I'll find a way to get your money. You'll regret this. Sandra Wilson's trial took place 3 months later. She was charged with attempted fraud, extortion, providing false documents for marriage registration, and several other crimes from her past that surfaced during the investigation. I attended every hearing, sitting next to Michael. My son had fully recovered from the ordeal and had even started dating a new woman, a local schoolteacher. Humble, kind, genuine. At the final hearing, the judge delivered the verdict. Sandra Wilson, this court finds you guilty on all charges. I sentence you to 7 years in prison. Sarah or Sandra turned and looked at me. There was no more anger or calculation in her eyes, just exhaustion. After the trial, Michael and I went to our favorite restaurant for dinner. Mom, he said, raising a glass of wine, I want to apologize for everything. Michael, you don't need to apologize. You were in love. I was blinded. I believed her instead of you, and you were always there, always protecting me. That's a mother's job, I smiled. You know what's strangest? Part of me really wanted that child, a grandchild for you, a son for me. When she said she was pregnant, I felt such joy. And you'll still be a father, dear, with the right woman. Time will tell, but I like her. 6 months later, Michael proposed too. The wedding was small, intimate, just the kind I'd always dreamed of. Turned out to be the daughter-in-law I'd hoped for, kind, intelligent, and genuinely in love with my son, not his inheritance prospects. A year later, they told me they were expecting. This time, I was there for every doctor's visit, saw every ultrasound, felt the baby kick. My grandson, Robert, named after his grandfather, was born on a cold December morning. When I first held him, I knew everything I'd been through was worth it. This tiny human was worth any fight. I rewrote my will again. Now Michael and little Robert were the primary heirs, along with several charities that support victims of fraud. Sandra Wilson is serving her sentence in a Connecticut women's prison. Detective Jones told me her case helped uncover a network of con artists specializing in inheritance scams. Her testimony led to the arrest of 5 others. Sometimes, as I watch my grandson sleeping peacefully in his stroller, I think about how close we came to disaster. If I'd given in, if I hadn't trusted my instincts, Sandra would gotten her hands on millions, and my son would lost not just money, but his faith in love. But my instincts didn't fail me. A mother's love proved stronger than any scam. I recently received a letter from Sandra in prison. She wrote that she's remorseful, that she wants to start fresh after her release. Maybe it's true, maybe it's another manipulation. I never replied. Some people ask if I regret not giving Sandra a chance. Was I too harsh? My answer is always the same. I was protecting my family, and I'd do it again. At 73, I've learned this. Money isn't just wealth, it's responsibility. Responsibility to those who come after you, your children, your future generations. And that responsibility must be protected from those who want everything while giving nothing in return. Sandra Wilson's story is one of greed blinding a person, but it's also a story of how a mother's love and common sense can overcome any lie. As I write this, 2-year-old Robert plays beside me, building a tower of blocks. Every time it falls, he laughs and starts over. Maybe that's the lesson. Life tests our strength. Towers fall, but the most important thing is to keep going, to rebuild on a stronger foundation. My family's foundation is now stronger than ever. No con artist can break it. 5 years have passed since Sandra Wilson was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Life has settled into a peaceful rhythm. Michael gave me another grandson, Thomas. The house is now filled with the constant sound of children's laughter. 7-year-old Robert is learning to play the piano, the same one his grandfather once played. 3-year-old Tommy already shows signs of being a future engineer, always tinkering and building. Michael started his own IT company and is thriving, continues teaching, but now also raises our boys. They've become the family I always dreamed of. As for me, at 78, I still take an active role in managing our family's finances, though I've handed most of the responsibility to Michael. He's proven to be a wise steward, cautious but not afraid of smart risks. Recently, we established the Robert Harrison Family Charitable Fund to help elderly victims of financial fraud. In 3 years, we've assisted over 200 families. Detective Jones, now a family friend, regularly speaks at our events about protecting oneself from scammers. His talks are a hit. And Sandra, 2 years ago, she was released early for good behavior. Detective Jones told me she moved to another state and, as far as we know, lives quietly. She works as a sales clerk in a small store and rents a modest apartment. Maybe prison changed her, maybe not. I prefer not to dwell on it. My life is too full of joy to waste time on past threats. Sometimes, as I rock little Tommy or read to Robert, I think about the importance of trusting your instincts, about protecting what truly matters, and about how real family isn't just blood, it's the people who stand by you in tough times. Sandra was only tied to us by fake documents, with no blood relation, has become my daughter in every way that counts. This story taught me so much. It taught me that wealth is not just opportunity, but responsibility, that trust must be earned, not demanded, and that a mother's love is the most powerful force in the world, capable of shielding against any threat. But above all, I learned this: happiness isn't measured by the size of your bank account. It's the sound of children's laughter, the warmth of your son's embrace, the grateful look in your daughter-in-law's eyes, the quiet evenings with family. Everything else is just money. Money comes and goes, family stays forever. As the sun sets outside my living room window and the house prepares for a big family dinner, I know I've won. Not just the battle against a con artist, that was just a small victory. I've won at life. I have something no one can steal, fake, or buy. I have a family, a real family. And that's worth more than all the money in the world. Did you enjoy this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories. See you next time.